Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Donovan's Daily Dose. I'm your favorite APUS history teacher, Mr. Donovan, and today we're going to take a look at the U.S. Constitution. Now, for this video, we're not only going to look at the U.S. Constitution, we're also going to examine the theme of federalism. And we'll talk more about that in a minute. But to set up the Constitution, you got to look at the background. So we know that the Articles of Confederation, America's first constitution without British rule, failed miserably. The federal government couldn't raise a militia, they couldn't enforce taxes, and the Constitutional Convention is going to be called initially to try to fix the Articles of Confederation. However, after much debate, they decided to develop a brand new U.S. Constitution that we still use today. Now, within this U.S. Constitution, we have three branches of government. The legislative branch, which is responsible for mainly making the laws. The executive branch, which is supposed to enforce the laws. And the judicial branch, which is supposed to interpret the laws. Now, along with this, within the Constitution, we're going to see the idea of federalism included. So federalism is different than federalists. So you got to be very careful whenever you're reading primary or secondary sources. Federalism itself talks about the balance of power between federal and state governments. And this is ingrained in our U.S. Constitution in multiple ways. First, if we take a look at the 10th Amendment shown here, the 10th Amendment says the powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. So this was ingrained in our U.S. Constitution as a means to protect rights of individuals and the state government itself. Now, built within this U.S. Constitution, there's three different powers, and I'm going to bring a graph up here in a minute to show you them. We have reserved powers, enumerated powers, and concurrent powers. So let's take a look at what those look like within our U.S. Constitution. So as you can see from this graphic, we have a division of powers. When I say delegated powers, or enumerated powers, these are powers that are going to be written into the Constitution specifically for the U.S. government. So as you can see, some of the delegated powers include coining money, regulating interstate trade and foreign trade, raising and maintaining armed forces, and declaring war. So when we look at the responsibilities of the national government, in this case, you're looking at things that impact the country as a whole. And that is something that could be different than the reserved powers that you see on the right-hand side here. So these are powers exclusively for state governments to deal with, like regulating trade within a state, establishing public schools, and things like that. Now, if both the state and federal government possess a power, it's called a concurrent power, as we see in the middle category. So both the federal and state government can borrow taxes, both of them can borrow money, both of them can establish courts. So this system that we see right here is largely a product of debate and compromise at the Constitutional Convention. We know that based on our experience under the Articles of Confederation, we can't have an extremely weak federal government with all the power to the states. But at the same time, we don't want all the power to the federal government and not enough to the states, because that would represent what we broke away from with Great Britain during the Revolution. So this helps to try to balance the power between the federal and state government to make sure no one government entity has too much power. Now, this debate over states' rights and what is included in the Constitution for the state governments versus the federal government will be seen throughout multiple time periods in U.S. history. We'll see it around the time of the Civil War. We'll see it after the Civil War. We'll see it during the Great Depression. So this debate about federalism and what powers state and federal governments have is ongoing. So make sure, if this video helped, you like and subscribe, and have an amazing rest of your day.